You didn't get too close to Hogan. I didn't, move right up on top of him, but I certainly watched him hit the balls at Champions. It had a great sound, and it was spectacular. It was great to watch him hit it. The beauty of his swing, the power of the swing, and the accuracy that he hit the ball came out like a rocket with just the tiniest bit of drop off.
Ben Hogan would have putted well. He would have shot in the mid-50s every day.
He was hitting drivers. I've never seen anyone to this day and hit them the same distance, the same direction.
His concept was to throw the right knee at the ball.
People say Hogan won't ever talk to you. Well, Hogan talked to me a lot.
Hogan was the best striker from tee to green that ever lived, without a question.
I'll tell you what he really was good at is dancing.
I go back a long way with Hogan. Great admiration for him as a golfer and to me as a person.
Ben Hogan had a tremendous impact on everyone who watched him play the game. Please enjoy this episode of Mr. Hogan, starring Jim McLean.
I'm Gary Player, and you're watching MSE TV.
Jim McLean is one of the most important figures in the world of golf. In addition to being the creator of the X Factor, Jim is the CEO of the Jim McLean Golf School brand, the #1 golf school in the world. Jim's resume is almost too long to list, so I'd simply like to invite you to enjoy this episode of Mr. Hogan, starring Jim McLean. After meeting Jim at the PGA show in Orlando, he invited me down to Miami to spend an entire day with him at his Jim McLean Golf School World Headquarters at the Biltmore Resort in Coral Gables, Florida.
Well, this is I call them the super stations.
The Superstation, I've seen it in pictures and in video, but this is incredible to see the actual location. I'm tempted to say that this swing is as good as Ben Hogan's. Like, it's that outstanding.
Watching Sam play was unbelievable, and again, all you have to do is talk to people that were from that era or after, guys that played with Sam when he was in his late 60s, early 70s. It was still phenomenal.
I heard a rumor that Hogan said that if he could have clubbed Sam, he would have won even more.
Well, they had a big rivalry, that's for sure. In 1950, Sam won 10 tournaments and Hogan won 1, and Hogan was the player of the year, which always bothered him.
Oh, that's got to rub him the wrong way, I bet.
I knew about this camera from a couple of people, Ben Doyle, with Will, and then Carl Welty. It's a pretty cool camera. It's Polaroid, and you put a sheet of film in there, then you take the picture. You can control the speed right here.
Wow.
So everybody, that's when I learned about the tempo more when I was teaching. It was pretty different with a lot of amateurs who swim much slower than pros did.
I have great respect for you as a golf instructor, largely because you've played the pro game. You've won pro events, and I think that really speaks to your dedication to your craft. Whereas a lot of teachers, they're not fine players, but you certainly are.
Well, I love playing. I had a good junior career, and then got a 4-year scholarship at the University of Houston, which is the first one Coach Williams ever did. And he won the 17 NCAA championships. We won 2 of the 4 years I was there, and we finished second in the other 2. My senior year, we had a great year that year, but Texas was really good with Kite and Crenshaw, and they beat us in the NCAA. We threw our trophies away. We were so all of us, 5 of us, threw the trophies in the garbage.
Is that true?
Kind of wish I had the trophy now, to tell you the truth. But yeah, we were so disappointed. I thought we were going to win that, but we didn't. Anyway, I played a lot of amateur golf all over the country. Played U.S. amateurs, and played in a few U.S. Opens as an amateur. Yeah, I had a good career as an amateur golfer, and then turned pro. Missed the tour school a couple times, and then Jackie Burke helped me go up to New York.
I think Jim McLean might have been one of the best golfers I've ever seen. When he came to school, and really even after school, absolutely could play the game like nobody's business, hit the golf ball as well as anybody I've ever seen, do as many things with golf shot making as anybody I've ever seen. He just, I guess just everything wasn't there for him to, carry it to the top level.
But yeah, as far as the playing, I always continued to practice, and I played in a lot of the winter tour stuff, the Florida Winter Tour, I mean. And then there was Club Pro events, state opens, that kind of stuff.
A senior open?
I played in the U.S. Senior Open, yeah. So I played in the U.S. Junior, the U.S. Amateur a few times, the U.S. Open a few times, and the U.S. Senior Open. I qualified for all 4 of those. So that was kind of a fun thing.
May I ask what those medals are up there? I see.
Oh, yeah. Well, if you win the qualifyings, you get a medal, a USGA medal. So there was, back then we had 2 qualifyings for the U.S. Open. There was a local qualifying and a regional qualifying. So I won those a few times, and then the U.S. Amateur qualifyings, and the U.S. Junior qualifying, the U.S. Senior qualifying.
You've got 13 of them?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what the kids call legitness today.
Legitness. Yeah, and then, I got to play in the Masters. I would have, I was the first alternate to the United States World Cup team, which was 4 players, and then I'm sure I would have been on the Walker Cup team, but I turned professional. I played in the Masters. I made the cut, and if you played in the Walker Cup back then, you got to play in the Masters. But I turned pro. We didn't really have that much money. My parents had sent me to all these tournaments everywhere. So I turned pro, and I had a couple great years. I lived with Lietzke the first year we played. We lived together in California and Arizona, and played a lot of events. And then when I went to Westchester, that next qualifying, Lietzke made it. I went up to New York. He made it, and then I got to see him play some great golf, and Bill Rogers as well, and Mahaffey, guys I lived with. And then Fuzzy Ziller was there. He won the U.S. Open and the Masters. Guys on our team, Bobby Watkins, and there were others too. They were really good tour players. Keith Fergus, bunch of guys that were on that team.
So if you were to look back over your lifetime, who would you say has the best swing you've ever seen?
Well, there's some great swings right now on the PGA Tour. I love watching Justin Thomas and McIlroy, and quite a few of the Alexander Schauffele. Love watching his swing. Then when you and I have talked a lot about Hogan, and watching Hogan swing a club, I think has been one of the swings that's been copied the most, and trying to get that kind of freedom into the swing, that kind of power into the swing. Sam Snead, of course, people are going to talk about forever. That swing's always going to be good. If you brought Sam into this time frame, he would kill it. He'd be super long, and he hit it straight too. I mean, he'd be great.
Did you have the opportunity to meet or watch Ben Hogan?
I did at Champions. I was at the University of Houston, and he would come down to see his friends, Jimmy DeMeritt, who was his best friend, and Jackie Burke. He would stay at Champions for a week, most years, every year, I think, for a long time. And they put him up right there at Champions. And then he would play with Jackie and his brother Jimmy Burke, and then Jay Abear was there, and John Mahaffey, who I'd lived with when he was a senior. I was a sophomore, and after that he worked at Champions for 1 year, and Hogan helped him. And I watched John play with Hogan a few times. So I watched Hogan play 7 or 8 times, or 18 holes, walk around with him, and then we saw him at the Houston Open. He played well 1 year when he was quite a bit older, and then the last tour event he ever played was at Champions, where he hit it in the brank on number 4 at Champions and hurt his leg, and he got around through 10, and then he withdrew, and that's the last time he ever played.
What stands out to you?
Well, I got to watch Hogan practice. I got to watch him play with Mahaffey when John was the NCAA champion the year before, first team All-American, and went on to have a great career on the PGA Tour. So John could really play. And Hogan was 57, 58 years old at this time, and Hogan hit it past him. And a lot of people don't know how long Hogan was, the speed he had in his swing, which I listened to Paul Runyon, for one, who I knew pretty well. Runyon came up to Seattle to open up Sahali. He was the director of golf at Sahali. So I took lessons from Paul and got to know him, and then I'd see him in California as well. But they'd done tests on speed, and Hogan was like ridiculously fast, close to 130 miles an hour is what Mr. Runyon told me, on the machines of Spalding. So he and Sam Snead were the longest hitters of their generation. Plus, Hogan, of course, had that incredible control of the golf ball. And I know you've talked to a lot of great champions that got to see Hogan play or played with him, where you'd have these massive strings in tournaments of not missing a fairway, not missing a green. And those are legendary stories, but they happened.
So it's true.
Yeah, well, watching Hogan practice was pretty impressive. I told you a little story about Richard Speed, who caddied for him for decades at Colonial, and when he shagged for him, he said he rarely moved. You know, we've all heard those stories, but when you hear it right from the horse's mouth, you know, Richard caddied for me at Colonial when I was doing the Hogan video. We talked, laughed all the way around, and of course I asked him about shagging for him and what that was like. He said it was unbelievable. And then caddying for him at Colonial, you know, he said he shot 66, 67, 68 every time they went out. Then sometimes 63, 62. But I know you've been to Colonial. It's a tremendous golf course. It's a little, you know, it's just about 7,000 yards now, so it's a little shorter compared to, you know, what the golf ball's going now, but it's not even a comparable game. So back then it was a really tough track.
Indeed. They played a U.S. Open not long after it had opened, correct?
Yeah, they played the Open there, and they played the Colonial. They still play the Colonial every year on the PGA Tour. It might be maybe Phoenix or Colonial is the oldest running tournament. Hogan won it 5 times.
Is it one of the Hogan's alleys? There's so many of them.
Yeah, there's a lot. Yeah, Riviera, and
6 at
Seminole.
Carnoustie?
Yeah, Carnoustie hit between. I mean, if you've gone to Carnoustie and you play that hole, and that out of bounds is right down the left, and the bunker's right here, and he did 4 days in a row, hit it between the bunker and the OB. That's a great story right there.
It's nervy.
Oh man, it's about 20 yards wide.
Wow. I think the story I heard is in the 4th round, the wind switched, which makes it even a different type of accomplishment.
Wind blows almost every day over there, and very penalizing golf course. But that's the toughest by far driving hole in the course if you go that way. But there's a big area out to the right where everybody goes in the tournament. But Hogan didn't.
Wow. 15 shots. I improved my golf game by 15 shots in 1 year when I switched back to the classic swing I learned as a kid. I wasted over 20 years trying to do all these modern swing techniques, and it didn't do anything but confuse me.
Shot a 69.
Does it feel natural?
Feels very natural.
Had you tried to do other things before?
You think?
Today I've got the golf swing I've always dreamed of, and it was all about returning to the classic principles that the legends of golf used themselves. So if you'd like to learn more about how I swing a golf club, go to classicswing.golf and change your game. So when you watched him practice, I hear stories about the windows and the sound.
It had a great sound. It whistled off there. You didn't get too close to Hogan. I didn't, move right up on top of him, but I certainly watched him hit the balls at Champions, and it was spectacular. It was great to watch him hit it. The beauty of his swing, the power of the swing, and the accuracy that he hit the ball. He also, at Champions, would go out to the 14th hole. They let him practice out there because the wind comes off the Gulf of Mexico, and it's right to left wind. And that's what he'd go out there by himself with a shagger and hit balls out there. I didn't watch him do that. I watched him hit balls on the range at Champions. And I watched him play there. And then, during the tournament, it's hard to watch him because there's so many people. I do remember this. A lot of tour players went out to watch him play. And that doesn't happen ever. There's no tour player that goes out to watch anybody. But they went out to watch Hogan. That was pretty cool.
Wow. Did you get to meet him in person?
Just introduced.
Just briefly?
I snuck into the bag room and picked up his clubs, which was, a little scary because I was hoping he wouldn't walk in there. But, I picked up all his clubs and looked at them. He had the big cord grips on there. He had a big reminder set week, like we knew. But it was a very big, it's like maybe some kind of cord down the back that was pretty significant. You could really feel it.
Wow. It's interesting about the larger grips.
Yeah.
I guess more surface contact with your hands, more control.
Well, the bigger the grip, the less hand action you have in it. Hogan definitely fought a hook in his early years. He hated that hook. So he eventually, and when he came back from the war, he made these two discoveries of moving his hand over, shortening his left thumb. So the shorter left thumb gives you a tighter backswing. He had a very long backswing. He always with his driver had a pass parallel position with the driver, and then it shortened with his irons. But he weakened his grip a little bit, and he felt like he cupped the club going back. Put a little bit of cup on his left wrist going back. It's not much though when you watch the videos to him, but he wanted to, he felt like he, turned that club face more open so he could completely release the club and have no fear of hooking it. And he actually did that. He was able to hit that ball where it came out like a rocket with just the tiniest bit of drop off. He didn't hit big slices.
Jim McLean is also one of the most prolific authors in the world of golf, and he took me into his office to discuss some of his favorite books.
We got these are Hogan stuff for you. Should we take those out?
Oh, whatever you... That's incredible. I've never seen these older versions. I did see that one.
Well,
Marty Leonard showed me the personal autographed copy of...
I've got an autographed copy. Yeah.
How many books have you written?
13 golf books. So they, you just develop a lot of information. I'm a lot like you, as I said, a lot of interest, and I took a lot of notes. And that's really how I wrote the 8-step swing, was through the 80s. I was just taking a lot of notes. I had a tremendous amount of notes that one of my teachers helped me compile, and then my first writer, and then we got it down to a manageable book.
Right. And does this form the basis of all your golf schools?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes,
wow.
That was the original 8-step swing book right there. I've had a few revisions. This book got a lot of notoriety, The X Factor, which was a book just on what the body does. Then we would just study what all the players did, through the top 100 players each year of what's happening in the swing, how much lateral movement, center of mass, upper center, head movement.
You've been ahead of the teaching curve. You've set the curve the whole way.
Well, I think a lot of things that I've done have been eventually copied because of the work we did early on with video and the access I had to the PGA Tour. So it was easy for me to get to the courses. I was trained by Carl Welty, who is the greatest researcher ever in your neighborhood from La Costa. And I was just lucky. He was, we met each other in Seattle. He'd come and he had one of these cameras that he used, and he had an 8mm film, a regular camera. It took 2 weeks to get the film back, but he filmed me when I was a young guy.
Wow.
Up in the Northwest. And then we just had built that friendship, and it stayed that way forever.
I'm so happy that you did become friends with him. It's shaped the game that we love. I mean, we're all beneficiaries of it, and I appreciate it tremendously. So, would you be willing to take a look at my old swing?
Sure, of course.
Okay, guys, this is the luckiest day of my life. I finally get to meet one of my idols and get his opinion about my own swing evolution.
I do remember a story that Claude Harmon told me. Mr. Harmon was at the right across the street at Morningside when I was the head pro at Tamarisk. So I had a lunch with him every week, and I'd go over there quite often to see him. He had a million stories. But he said that sometimes when Hogan practiced at Thunderbird, when Claude was there in the desert, or at Seminole, that he would take a 3-iron and practice for a few hours of hitting big slices, over and over and over. And then he'd go to the first tee and just hit it dead straight. But he wanted to make sure there was no hooks. Mr. Harmon was so funny. He told so many great stories. But he said Ben Hogan would rather have a coral snake under his sweater going around down his back and around his side rather than hit one hook. He's the most deadliest snake in the world, That's what he'd say. He used his hand to talk, but he said Hogan just hated the hook. That didn't mean he couldn't draw it when he needed to. He'd play the shots both ways. Venturi was a great friend of his, great friend of mine, and he said Hogan would work the ball, from the center of the green into different, he wanted you to be able to move the ball into the pin. So he could draw it. His go-to shot was a fade. He wasn't hitting any hooks, but he could definitely, to a back left pin, he'd want a low trajectory and the ball advancing in toward the hole.
That's something I heard Doug Sanders speak to, was working the ball from the center of the green towards the pin. Can you tell me what that means exactly? Is that like a front pin, you're playing it high and sucking it back?
Yeah, you can work the green into thirds or quadrants. But Nicklaus, made his great career out of hitting to the center of the green and working the ball in. Or Bruce Lietzke, you and I have talked about with. Bruce didn't want to, he played a little bigger fade than Hogan, but he wouldn't start the ball off the green. But if there was a back left pin for Lietzke, that just wasn't a birdie hole. So he would work the ball, to the right of the pin. But Hogan would draw it in there to that back pin. There was no pins. You couldn't hide a pin from him. But Jack mostly played that fade into the center of the green. So the guys that are going into the center of the green are hitting a lot of greens. They're not short-siding themselves. They're giving themselves a lot of opportunities. And, Jack kind of played that little more center of the green, pick up the par fives, shoot 67, 68 all the time, eliminate the errors. And Hogan, was probably, Jack Nicklaus would probably say a slight step up from him. He would move it both ways, but playing into the center of the green and then drawing it to the middle, you're not aiming it, so much at a corner pin. You're playing it into the center and letting the bounce and the spin move it over to the left or to the right.
That's incredible. So did Ben Hogan have a secret?
Well, in the book I showed you, I had 15 secrets. Jackie Burke said he had 500 secrets, but he had the 5 lessons that you used to become a much better player. His secret were those 2 things I mentioned, a weakening the grip and opening the face, so he took the hook out of the ball game. Other people talked about, in Sports Illustrated, they had some of the great pros talk about what the secret was. Mr. Harmon talked about the big lateral motion that he had in his swing. But Hogan said it was those 2 things, and he did the Sports Illustrated articles on that. I don't think there was one or 2 secrets.
I mean, I can't imagine all the things he must have thought about. Just in my own obsessing over the golf swing, I come up with things every day, you know, but I can't imagine what he must have.
Well, Jackie Burke would like tell me a story that Hogan would be out hitting balls there. They'd all be in the clubhouse having a drink, and Hogan would be out there. And he said, I came out one night, it was almost dark, and I went over and sat on the bag with Ben, talking to him. And he was working on something with his hands, and he was hitting it great. So the next day, he after the round, Hogan played a good round, and he asked Hogan, how did that new idea work? And he said, didn't make it to the first tee. But he was trying, you know, he tried something, ended up he didn't use it, didn't like it. But like all golfers, everybody's trying to upgrade, get a little bit better. You don't always stay at your peak performance. You know, you work different every day. Sometimes you get into a little off. I mean, Hogan didn't get off much. I think he really did own his swing. But he had Gardner Dickinson, who worked for him as his assistant at Tamarisk when he was the head pro there, said that Hogan had, now I'm not saying this is true, but he told me he had 8 major things that could go wrong in his swing, and he would always go back if something was a little bit off and check those things. So he had a checklist of items that we all have things that we tend to do that come back, that we had as a kid, or little mistakes in our swing. I think every tour player you talk to would tell you the same thing. When I get off, this is where I am. When I work with Tom Kite, he always said, I want to be on top of the fence when I'm playing great. I'm almost always over on this side of the fence. I'm never over here. I'm always on, you know, too much underneath it, too much inside out. And then I get back on the fence and I stay up there, and then I drop off and I got to get back up. That was a good way, I think, of thinking of it.
I saw Christo talking about the over-the-top swing. At about the same time, I was looking at old swings of Bobby Jones and Sam Snead, and both of them take it way inside and loop it over.
Bob, what's your lowest round of golf so far?
Shot a 69.
All right. I'm Christo Garcia, and you probably caught me on the Golf Channel swinging as Ben Hogan. My entire program is discounted for this introductory offer, so take advantage of this opportunity right now. When I started my swing evolution, I was obsessed with the golf swing of Ben Hogan. And I started studying the Ben Hogan collection that was created by Jim McLean. And wouldn't you know it, it was Jim McLean who introduced me to the over-the-top concept that he calls the reverse slot swing when he sent out a tweet about his good friend, Bruce Lietzke.
If you watch his swing face on, it looks perfect. I mean, it's just magnificent. When you watch it down the target line, you can see the more of this.
Thinking of the Watkins, Lietzke, a lot of these guys took it back under plane and put it on plane.
Yeah. So there was more of the Sam Snead, a little more early turn in the backswing, and then you'd have to put it back on plane on the downswing. It's a very natural. Most kids that I teach, they naturally, you know, take the club a little more around and then put it this way. There was a big loop and boom. So that's kind of a natural move, and there have been so many great players.
Did you live with Lietzke?
I did. Junior and senior years, we moved out into apartments, and I lived with Bruce and Bill Rogers those years. And then the next, our year after we got out of college, we lived together on mini tours out in California and in Arizona. And Bruce remained one of my great friends until he passed away. But he was just a genius, you know, phenomenal player. Great guy.
So I'm curious, he had a little bit of a knee shuttle, like through the hip, didn't he?
Yeah.
And he still
had
was
a
one of
big
the
lateral move.
premier.
Oh, just a genius driver, you know, always right near the top. When they did the combination of length and hitting fairways, he was #1 9 times. Yeah, so Bruce was, you know, if you go back and look at the records where he was in it was called GIR, Greens in Regulation. He was, you know, like first, second, third, or top 10 every year. Just a great ball striker, you know. So I learned a lot about ball striking from Bruce, and the idea of the club swinging back to the inside. That's, you know, from my time playing hundreds of rounds with Bruce, his divots would go so far to the left to the extent that I would tell him, I said, you know, Bruce, I think this is too far to the left. But the ball's just coming out, you know, high and just dropping off to the right most of the time. And he just eliminated the left side of the property. It just didn't exist. He just used the whole fairway. And he was a big guy, could hit it a long ways. Bruce, you know, when I asked him about timing, he said he didn't really think about timing, even though he had this beautiful rhythm swing. He just had such a fluid, beautiful golf swing. If you watch his swing face on, it looks perfect. I mean, it's just magnificent. When you watch it down the target line, you can see the more of this. He would take the club to the inside and shut, up to the top with a little bow on his left wrist, which he'd say, hey, that's where I wanted to be at impact. So we were all Hogan fanatics. Everybody in Texas, when I went to school, anybody in Texas was a Hogan guy. So we all looked up to Ben Hogan. We all had a weak grip. Though, you know, everybody, I had a pretty good bow right here too, a pretty flat left wrist. And Bill Rogers had a bow, and Lietzke and Mahaffey. Mahaffey was a huge Hogan guy. Yeah, so Hogan had just this massive influence on people all over the world, but especially in Texas.
As you can imagine, it's been the opportunity of a lifetime to spend the day with Jim talking about the greats like Ben Hogan and all of his amazing experiences. But can you imagine what it would be like to take a personal golf lesson with Jim McLean? He's coached Tom Kite, Christy Kerr, Keegan Bradley, Gary Woodland, and Lexi Thompson to major championship victories. So here's my chance to get a personal Ben Hogan golf lesson from the legend himself, Jim McLean.
When Jim asked me what I'd been working on recently, I told him that I was playing with some concepts of staying more stacked on my lead side, and this immediately started a very interesting conversation.
When people started talking about Hogan stacking left, when you draw a straight line up with a 3-wooder driver, this line's going to touch the left shoulder. That's a normal thing. Demerit said that Hogan had a sway to the right. And then, of course, he played with him all the time, so yeah, he did. This is when he was at his, when Hogan said he was at his best. So you can see right here that that's stacking the right side.
Yeah, yeah.
Side. So like the guy told you, I'm not sure, you know, that you want it to be more left. But well, that happens later. And it's not when the left arm's parallel, which is a common thing you hear. Not with Hogan, but it happens more
almost
when the
at the top, huh?
Well, almost. But he's going, and you know, his swing was longer, so maybe you'd see him right there, and then they say, oh, look, you know, they look at a picture, say, wow, look how far left his weight is. So now you can see he's got this lean, or I call it where everything's falling left. Venturi always told me that Hogan wanted to fall on that left knee right on top of his left foot. And that's what it looks like to me.
Wow.
Mr. Harmon said he had the biggest lateral move that he ever saw. Okay, so the first thing Hogan does when he goes back is he moves a little bit this way. The hands stay in and he moves a little bit, yeah, so he's moving, so he's getting a little more of that feeling right there. And then now let's come into impact as we come down. So I'm going to get you to feel a lot more there, and then let this straighten up a little bit. Yeah. Okay, so I'll do it for you. The clip, when you start down, the first move is this move. So if you don't go back, you can't do that.
Okay.
So this was that Hogan's first move, the fall on the left knee, and then the right side goes down. Yeah, your head, of course, would still be back there. That right, yeah. There you go. And see how open your chest is?
Yes.
Yeah. And that also, you know, requires you to have a little shorter right arm as you come in to hit it, which you want.
Yeah.
And then your extension. Now, once you get to here, once you get into this side bend, you should keep turning it a little bit. This is gonna, yeah, but your head's gonna stay back in the center of your spine. Your arms will have this freedom to get way over here like Hogan did, or Sam. The hands, the arms, the left elbow is going to get way over this way.
Right. Silly question. It almost feels like it'll be a glancing blow.
No, not going to be. I'll show you. When you come in to hit this golf ball, if we're going down this white line, your club is approaching from the inside.
Yeah.
The hands are ahead. You come in to hit it, and then as you go through, I'm going to give you a great little idea. The club's going to go left with loft, this way. So right now you're sideways, and the club's flipping.
Yes, sir.
You've got a lot of early release.
Yeah.
So we've got to get the handle forward and dragging over here. But the impact's coming still from the inside. You're not going like this to do it.
Okay. Great.
So you got to round out. Let's go out to the Hogan board for just a second. Okay. This will make more sense to you because I know it's a mind blower.
So Jackie Burke is the oldest living major champion, and you just got to celebrate his 100th birthday in Houston.
Yeah, went to
How
Houston.
is Mr. Burke?
He was great. He's still got a sharp mind. He's the most interesting person I ever met in my life. I stayed at his house many times. Both of my boys stayed at his house. Jack Nicklaus credits him with his putting. Ben Crenshaw, 5 of us spoke at his celebration in Houston. Ben Crenshaw, and then Mickelson. That's 3 pretty good guys for putting that really credit Jackie Burke a lot for helping them. Ben had such great things to say. He started seeing Mr. Burke when he was 12 years old. His dad brought him over to Champions. So they have a long history. Steve Elkington spoke, Butch Harmon spoke, myself and Clay Walker, he's a country western singer, he spoke. So it was really cool. It was a great event in Houston. I'm so happy I was there to see him. He still goes to work every day at 100 years old.
God bless him.
Every day. Yeah.
How old were you when you guys met?
I was in college. We had a roast for Jackie Burke probably 20 years ago. It was for prostate cancer. There was 1,100 people, $5,000 a table, or $10,000 a table. So it's a pretty big deal. Downtown Houston, beautiful hotel where we're at. And they had a dais you wouldn't believe, from President Bush to Tim Fincham, Hal Sutton, Ben Crenshaw, Miller Barber, there's tour stars. And we were doing a roast. So I had to think of some different stories, and I had a pretty good story, and I told it there, and it became pretty well known. I've seen it talked about and written in many places, but the real story was before the Masters, I had asked him, having some trouble with my driving, do you have a suggestion for me? So he looked at me and he said, yeah, drive down to Houston, hit 3 balls into the Gulf of Mexico. And he turned around and left. So I'm thinking, he just blew me off. That's what it meant nothing to me. I said, there's no way I'm going to drive 50 miles down to Galveston and hit 3 balls. Not going to happen. I didn't even think about it. I would say a month or 2 later, Bill Rogers and Bruce Lietzke and I drove down to Galveston, which was kind of a tourist place in Texas. And the beach is really hard. You drive your car on the beach. And we parked the car and we're going to go have lunch. And as I got out of the car, I had a $400 Chevrolet Malibu that I had, convertible. And I'm leaving, and my clubs are in the trunk. So I'm thinking, he talked about hitting those balls into the Gulf of Mexico. I'm going to go do it. So I picked my driver out. I walked back down to the beach, hit 3 balls into the Gulf of Mexico. Didn't mean anything to me. So another week or so, I was at Champions, and he was on the range. So I walked out on the range. I said, Mr. Burke. He said, yeah. I said, well, I did what you told me. And he said, what'd I tell you? I said, well, you said to drive down to Galveston and hit the 3 balls into the Gulf of Mexico. He said, oh, yeah. He said, how'd it go? I said, it went okay. He said, well, what happened? I said, well, I hit the 3 balls into the Gulf of Mexico. He said, what'd you learn? So I'm stumped. I said, I didn't learn anything. Didn't mean anything to me. He said, well, how'd you hit them? I said, I hit 3 perfect drives, right in the center of the face, perfect. He said, well, that's it, you dumb son of a bitch. He said, don't aim. Just hit it in the Gulf of Mexico. Don't aim. That's something I've used with players my whole life. It's like one of the greatest tips ever. Get up with your driver, let go. Don't aim in a narrow little spot, let it go. And sometimes that's what people need, even the best players in the world. So that was a good one. The other one was right before I was going to the Masters. I said, Jackie, I need one tip. He was always great to us, the team members at Houston. The top 5 guys we could play at Champions. We could go out there anytime we wanted to. It's a 36-hole facility. They've held the U.S. Open, the Women's U.S. Open, the U.S. Amateur, the Women's U.S. Amateur, the U.S. Junior, the Women's. They've held all the tournaments, the Tour Championship, Ryder Cup, everything there. Just fabulous place. So I said, hey, give me a tip for that first tee shot at the Masters because I'm already choking. And he said, take the longest backswing of your life. So it's again, I'm like, I said, why would I do that? He said, so you could at least get it halfway back. And that's what I was thinking on the tee, because man, you could short swing it pretty easy on that first tee shot. So those were 2 little Jackie Burke gem stories.
I see Mr. Venturi here.
Yeah, I spent 30 years with Kenny, so we played 200 rounds of golf probably, and you can see he dressed like Hogan. He had a lot of swing characteristics of Hogan, played a lot with Hogan, you know, as all of those guys of that era, they revered Hogan, and he spent a lot of time with Ben, so had some great stories. And he was also mentored by Byron Nelson. Ken Venturi was a ball striking genius, very smart guy. His parents worked at Harding Park, so he had access to playing there. And you know, he became a great amateur, and then he went in the military. He didn't turn professional till he was 25. And then he had a great string of 10 years where he won 14 times, and he won a U.S. Open. He was great friends with Byron Nelson and Ben Hogan. He was Byron Nelson's protege from his amateur golf days, and then started to play with Hogan. And he wore the Hogan cap like you do, and he put that cap on when he played. And he went into a zone that he was, you know, all business like Hogan. And he idolized Hogan. You know, we just became friends. I played many, many times with him, a couple hundred times with him. Watched him work with great players. He helped me. I went back to the tour school again in 1977. I finished second in this first stage. Then I missed at the, you know, I'd been working at Westchester at that time. Anyway, he just showed me so many great advanced things that he learned from those guys. And being, you know, a great player himself. Well, the shots around the green, the little things, the fine art of playing the game, and really, really cool stuff on maneuvering the ball, you know, up and down, which I think a lot of people know now, but it was really high-end, cool stuff that was learned by hitting 1 million golf balls yourself and working with those great players. But yeah, the opportunity to watch him work with great players and to have a great friendship with him was unreal for me. As far as he came up and did schools with me in my clubs in New York. We did schools at PGA West. We did them in Doral. Where he'd come help me. Jackie Burke, too, same thing. Jackie's a Masters champion, a PGA champion, and Kenny's a U.S. Open champion. Yeah, so those are older guys, but they were really good friends with Hogan, and they really helped me tremendously.
15 shots. I improved my golf game by 15 shots in 1 year when I switched back to the classic swing I learned as a kid. I wasted over 20 years trying to do all these modern swing techniques, and it didn't do anything but confuse me.
Shot a 69.
Does it feel natural?
Feels very natural.
Had you tried to do other things before?
You think?
Today I've got the golf swing I've always dreamed of, and it was all about returning to the classic principles that the legends of golf used themselves. So if you'd like to learn more about how I swing a golf club, go to classicswing.golf and change your game.
After working inside the superstation for about an hour, we headed outside to the playing board where Jim wanted me to feel the circle of the swing going around my body.
Yeah, and then just let the shoulder pull your head up. So your head just rides on your shoulder. Stay right there. Turn that head back a little more. There, that's what Hogan would be, yeah. And now your hands, look how far forward your hands were there.
Finally, Jim wanted me to put all the theories to the test and hit some real golf balls. By now, the afternoon winds had picked up quite a bit, but it gave me a really good test to see how my ball striking would be with this new Ben Hogan golf swing.
Ben Hogan would maybe could just set himself a little more. Push your hands back just a touch. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's another anti-hook move. There you go. That was a big thing that Venturi wanted, was to set up with no angles. So he didn't want to get like this.
Okay,
So just balance yourself. Yeah, if you're trying to go like Hogan, that looks better. And then Hogan would always have that left shoulder back a little bit at address. He'd never get like this. Mm-hmm. That's a hook move. You just tuck this left shoulder back a little bit at address. So that kind of ties this left arm in, which he loved.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, that looks really good. Very good. You're getting those divots forward. How was that one?
That was delicious.
Wow, look how far forward that divot was. That's kind of what we were working on. That's the two things. Mm-hmm. Right side bend and going around the corner with your hands.
I am curious. I would love for you to tell me what you saw in my swing this morning and the changes that we made that created a pretty dramatic difference.
Well, of course, I watched your swing before you came here. I knew you were coming, so I spent a little bit of time watching your swing, and you've done a great job. I mean, you got so many of the Ben Hogan stuff in your swing, all the movements, really good. But when I had a chance to really watch you in here in my studio, I saw some things that I think would help you. So I saw, a little early release, standing up out of your posture. So we talked about. I told you I think I could tell you a couple of things that you're going to be able to do, and you did them pretty quick. But that was, right side bend, which allows you to stay in your tilt. That doesn't mean that you're going backwards, though. It's more of a covering idea and getting your chest more forward instead of going sideways into it. A lot of your knees together. They would look different from Hogan. I know you want to look like Hogan, so I wasn't afraid to tell you. I know you're interested in working on the mechanics of your swing. I think as a teacher, the thing that I've got to know fast is to size up a student, whoever I'm going to work with, and understand what they really want and what they need. You and I talked about this thing on my wall, the 25% theory, and everybody wants to work on the golf swing, but there's the short game, the management game, and the mental game too. But I know you want to be working on that golf swing mostly, although we did talk about some of your wedge game. But with your swing, getting more open, getting your lead arm more forward, getting your hands more forward, and to do that, you needed more tilt and this left shoulder going around more. It was staying. To me, that's one thing I look at in videos to see how the shoulders are working. And I'm treating you like a tour player, you know, like a really good player, of what I would tell a really good player who's on the high end of the scale. And that's different teaching that you're going to do. We've talked about that before, but I tried to teach you like, you know, I would tell you something for a tour player.
The low left exit, we were talking about Sam Snead and Calvin Pete, and I literally didn't believe my body would allow me to do it. And then you said, I've got a couple things that might help you do that. And I swear it couldn't have been more than 10 or 15 minutes. And we saw that club going around in a place that I've never seen.
Well, really what that is the club's whirling around your body on an inclined plane. And if you have perfect centrifugal force, it's very much a circular move on that inclined plane with no interruption. So if you see somebody going through and it's a vertical release going through, you know there's probably some, you know, definitely tension in there, or the idea of chasing the ball down the target line, you know, going after the ball, trying to keep the club at the target.
Even though I don't think I'm trying to say that I'm not going to do that, but it was like you gave me permission to really go for it.
And that's what you were talking about. We were talking about the Lietzke swing, or Snead, or Bobby Jones, or Matthew Fitzpatrick, Keegan Bradley. With that more look where you're getting the club out on the downswing. It's not really going over the top, but the feeling is that the hands are moving. If you have some depth in your swing, like you do, then the hands have room to move outward a little bit, and the club getting more out in front of you on the downswing, as opposed to getting it underneath, tilting backwards, sliding, and coming to me too far from underneath, too far from the inside, which is the number one thing that good players do when they're off. Like with you, you know, I showed you some good Hogan stuff. Like, what is he really doing? You know, where are you in comparison to, you know, somebody that you're emulating? But we also looked at Sam Snead today, and to see what he's doing. So somebody might say, you know, he didn't have much lateral motion. That's an interesting comment, but then I'm going to say, well, let me go look at the video.
I think it's so important to document this and to have it. Do we still feel the impact of Ben Hogan today?
Yeah, I think, Hogan's always, when you talk about golf, you're always going to have Hogan in the conversation. He's always going to be, you know, on Mount Rushmore. Hogan's always going to be up there with Jack and Tiger, and then Sam Snead. Trevino was a great player, and Bobby Jones. You know, there's a few players up there, but Hogan's always going to be on that mountain.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Mr. Hogan with Jim McLean. Until next time, I hope you hit 'em long and hit 'em straight. Everybody loves standing on the first tee and being able to rip a drive right down the middle of the fairway. But wouldn't it be a lot of fun if you could hit it 20, 30, or even 50 yards farther down the middle of the fairway?
We'll be down there.
Beauty, what a good swing. Woo,
Yeah.
Good sound to it. Man, that was beautiful.
What I worked on there was trying to get as far back as I could inside, try to stay down through the ball.
Do you think you picked up some yardage since we've been working on this stuff?
On the driver, at least 50 to 60 yards.
It's dynamite.
It's crazy.
When I started, I could only hit my driver about 250 yards with a perfect drive. Now, my longest drive on a launch monitor is 332 yards.
Go! Go! Yeah. Go! Go! 332!
In my new Classic Power Long Drive training course, I'm going to share with you all of the techniques, tools, and training methods I use to gain over 50 yards in just 1 month. All right, guys, it turns out that I was able to drive the first green, and that was 324 yards. If you're tired of being the short hitter in your group, it's time to get classic power. I've hit balls over 350 yards, and it's the most thrilling thing in the world. I've experienced the transformation, and I want to share it with you today.